Hey everybody, welcome back to another movie review. Hope you guys been enjoying the content on the channel as of late, and as you can tell, we're in my room. We're not doing this from my car because I actually watched this film at home, so I figured just to shoot the review in my room, and it's nice and quiet now. Nobody's here at home, so I just figured just better time than to watch this film and to give my thoughts on it. And um, I've been meaning to watch this film for a while now, just been curious about it, and with some recent news surrounding this film as well, I figured, well, I just got off work and the film came out finally on streaming on HBO Max, so I figured, hey, let's just watch this now while it's still in my mind and now it's on streaming, just jump on the opportunity to watch it, so I just got done watching it, and we're going to discuss it. So the film that we're talking about today, obviously, is The Zone of Interest, which was written and directed by Jonathan Glazer, who has worked with A24 in the past, specifically on a film called Under the Skin. I believe that's what it's called, starring Scarlett Johansson. Um, and I haven't seen that film, but I've heard some good things about it. But I believe this is his second outing as a director. His first, I believe, being Under the Skin. I could be wrong about that, but details a German family amidst the Holocaust happening in the background as changes happen within their environment, specifically with the father, who is a high-ranking officer uh, within the uh, uh, the Nazi regime, and he's uh, being ordered to go into new territory, and then at other times he's being ordered to do this and that. And what the film examines ultimately is a lot to do with that stringent and very blinding and yet highly toxic living environment under the German authority during this period, which is during the Holocaust. Um, and the display of that idea is presented quite blatantly, I must say, where they show you things like an example would be through a lot of children's stories. There's this emphasis on the children in this in the family dynamic. Just the children themselves, specifically the younger women, and then just the young boys. You see how they are treated within the system. The young women having to like prep dinner or work in the kitchen or clean, and having to work at a certain pace and being abused and being mistreated, being very very mistreated, while the young boys are basically just being prepped as soldiers, being breeded into soldiers by means of like certain outlooks, certain behaviors being formed, and even with the young children, the little toddlers, having stories like these little bedtime stories, ultimately being that of like propaganda, or that of like again just manipulating them, kind of coaxing them into a certain behavior, um, and um, and there's also metaphors that represent sets this sort of blindness within the entire family, within just the overall mentality of being a German at this time. uh, with the whole idea of a wall being built to separate them from the Jews. You see that, well, I mean, it's pretty blatant in that, that's just their blindness. They're being blind to the very truth of what's happening. um, there's moments where there'll be red that just succumbs, that just engulfs the screen. Of course, that being a blood, uh, and the smoke. I'll just at many points in the film, just being in the background, big piles of smoke coming up from from a far distance. Um, but I mean, the point of bringing this all up is to demonstrate how much the background means in this film. The background is key to understanding the showcase of the themes of this film, and showcasing very much so what the film is exploring, which is that of ignorance and about the blindness within this specific time under the German authority, under the German expression, just this or there's the whole German mentality, being in this regime, being in this side on this side, how blinding and how ignorant and how just abusive it can be, um, and how stringent it also can be. How can it can be? Um, the sort of no. There's no yes or no. It's only yes. With how even the father, going through his, uh, going through the ranks and having to talk to each officer. It's not like, oh well, we can have a nice conversation. It's more about you do this and you do that. Okay, now leave. So just basically machinery, not much so humanity, but more so just machinery, just pieces of machinery walking around essentially. Um, and on a technical front, it's interesting because a lot of the times it is shown through master shots or with wide angle lenses, and at many points also multiple cameras on like tripods. It seems where running at the same exact time, really allowing the actors to move around the given space without much restriction or having to wait for them to set up for the next scene or whatever. It's just camera here, camera there, like camera one corner, camera in the next room in another corner, really allowing us to see the entire space and simultaneously letting these actors just walk into each camera, into each setting without having the need to like set up, for this and this and that, for lighting and all that stuff. They just have it all set up already and have the actors just occupy that space. Kind of like a stage play, essentially, just the way it's set up. But not, thankfully though, not feeling so stagey in overall aesthetic and overall technicality. Um, but um, it is aesthetically interesting and thematically, or just by the nature of it, the exploration of its environment, it can be rather interesting. And for a good hour, it is interesting. Um, but I also appreciate again some of the just displays of some of these of that showcase of ignorance. Like at one key point, they cut to a montage of like flowers, where while in the background you hear very faint screaming, and screams are heard throughout the film. Where there's something happening in front of you, and then what's happening when you hear behind you is a very different story. So as I said, the background is a very, very key aspect to understanding the whole aesthetic, the whole literal visualization of the zone of interest. Um, but what it may carry in terms of intrigue aesthetically, it also carries quite a redundance in thematic exploration, because though I do like generally how it's occupying itself, like how it's showing, by design, by the overall aesthetic technicality, it's interesting. There's kind of a flirt of like Tatarsky in there, in that there's like it is kind of a slow burn. Like the first 5 minutes of the film is just a black screen and just a chorus or something playing in the background, um, and a lot of the time it is again just um, sort of spectating the characters, not necessarily understanding these characters on an emotional level, because again, it plays the whole point of what they're trying to address in discussing this environment, in that everybody is not emotional, in that everybody has to be a certain way, and has to be a certain thing. Um, it's it's spectating the characters, and um, and though it again it plays to the overall idea, it kind of reins in the same observations and the same ideas and the same conclusions, the same statements. And it stretches itself more thin than thick when it's all said and done. Like almost an hour in, I told myself I pretty much got what the film is saying, and I got pretty much what the film is wanting to explore. So how much more time is there? And I saw there was like 40 more minutes, and I was kind of hoping that there would be a little bit more, um, going on thematically speaking. But it's just again kind of stretching it out more and letting things just marinate and sit more. And instead of it being more impactful and more weightful, it's just kind of again just reining in the same sort of idea, except in a longer runtime. This is a film that would work much more in the vein of like an hour or even shorter than that. This could easily be a short film, and because of just, again, what it is ultimately speaking on, and the 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 variation of such theme. It's kind of small, and just general topic, general idea. It's it's not as so where there is um, so many gray areas, or so many ways to look at it, or there's multiple topics being juggled. It's purely just with one sort of idea, a very blatant idea. Again, this idea of ignorance, this idea of just blindness. It's plastered throughout the entire film. You'd be pretty blind yourself if you didn't understand what the film is addressing. Um, so it got a little a bit repetitive, a bit boring, to be frank, after that hour, and um, generally just a stretch. Like, really, that's what it felt like to me, is that the film was ultimately stretching and not necessarily deepening its subject matter. But aesthetically, though, it's interesting. Technically speaking, it's interesting. I like the overall spirit, the overall mentality. This sense of dread, and also this, again, this embedded ignorance that is within the film, well, by spirit and by just the literal what is being shown. I appreciate that, and it really illustrates that whole idea very, very much so. But that's also the downfall of the film, is that it is so blatant in that idea, and that is the only concern that it has, is that one idea and not anything else. And it just becomes so knowing, and at some point just repetitive, and I just found myself a bit bored with it. um, so you know I'm not going to get into the whole speech thing that happened at the Oscars. That's a separate thing. I will say, though, that I think that the film has garnished um, more acclaim and more attention, I think, because of what is happening in the real world today. Um, I think that the timing of the film um, is kind of plays um, into the whole perspective of such films. Some people perhaps might be projecting onto the film, in my opinion, but because as it stands, it's fair. It's fine, but it's not anything that is gonna just wow you, disturb you. Um, you know, it's it's quiet. It's mute, and it's good in that, but it's also in just the whole exploration, the whole visualization, the whole just structure. It can get a bit repetitive, especially just by technicality, just by, like, we got to go from one place to that place and the other place and the other place. It's not like that there's any break of that rhythm. It's just the same sort of rhythm the entire time. And it feels more or less like a carousel. Um, it's not like we're taking any new corners, or um, any new paths. It's always we're on the same sort of path, and it always feels like we're coming back to the same place where we started, and not where it's actually where we're getting more and more and more. It's pretty much just always the same. So, so, yeah. So an hour of it felt good, but about 106 minutes, I believe the film's runtime is, can wane on you, but um, not in the ways I think the film wants it to be. So, so yeah. So, here's my thoughts on the Zone of Interest. I liked it, but not entirely. I liked a good chunk of it. I'll say that. I liked what it's trying to do, but ultimately the execution of it, just by length, is my real issue. Is just by how much this idea plays out. I feel that this is a short film in hiding, and not so much a feature length film, if you were to ask me. Um, but those are my thoughts on the Zone of Interest. You guys let me know your thoughts on the Zone of Interest in the comment section below. Uh, Keep it tame. If you're gonna bring up anything about the director and what he said about the Oscars, just keep it tame. We're here to talk about the film proper here. But let me know your thoughts on the Zone of Interest in the comment section below, and your thoughts on the other film he did, Under the Skin. If that one was any good, if that shares any of the same sensibilities, let me know all your thoughts, Jonathan Glazer, Zone of Interest, in the comment section below. And that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. And until then, I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye.